All right, let me get out of the way for a second and go back out to our audience and take a question from an audience member. Sir?
John Marcoux from the great city of Charleston. Gentlemen, when will you release your tax return specifically?
An hour ago.
Mr. Speaker posted his online an hour ago. We know that. Congressman Paul, we'll come down the line. Congressman Paul, I want to start with you. We reached out to your campaign this week, and they said you would not release your tax returns. Why?
Well, I hadn't thought it through. I don't have an intention of doing it, but for a different reason. I'd probably be embarrassed to put my financial statement up against their income, and I don't want to be embarrassed because I don't have a greater income. Now, I mean, it may come to that, but right now I have no intention of doing that. I think with our financial statements, congressional financial statements, I think you know more about me than I know about myself. That's how my wife found out so much about what we were doing, you know, from my financial statement. Now, I don't think people need that because nobody's challenging me because I have no conflict of interest and I don't even talk to lobbyists and I don't take that kind of money. So there's no conflict.
Governor Romney, when will we see yours?
When my taxes are complete for this year, and I know that if I'm the nominee, the president's going to want to insist that I show what my income was this last year and so forth. When they're completed this year in April, I'll release my returns in April and probably for other years as well. And I know that's what's going to come. Every time the Democrats are out there trying their very best to try and attack people because they've been successful. And I have been successful. But let me tell you, the challenge in America is not people who have been successful. The challenge in America, and President Obama doesn't want to talk about this, is you got a president who's played 90 rounds of golf while there are 25 million Americans out of work. And you've got, and while the price of gasoline has doubled, he said no to the Keystone Pipeline. And while we got $15 trillion of debt, he said, look, I'm going to put another $1 trillion of debt for Obamacare. That's the problem in America, not the attacks they make on people who've been successful.
But some of the questions about when you release your taxes have not come. The president has raised them. His campaign has raised them. You're right on that. But so have some of your rivals up here. Speaker Gingrich has said you owe them to the people of South Carolina before they vote. Governor Perry made that point as well before he left the race. Why not should the people of South Carolina, before this election, see last year's return?
Because I want to make sure that I beat President Obama. And every time we release things, drip by drip, the Democrats go out with another array of attacks. As has been done in the past, if I'm the nominee, I'll put these out at one time so we have one discussion of all of this. I obviously pay all full taxes. I'm honest in my dealings with people. People understand that. My taxes are carefully managed. And I pay a lot of taxes. I've been very successful, and when I have our taxes ready for this year, I'll release them.
Speaker Gingrich, is that good enough?
Look, she's got to decide, and the people of South Carolina have to decide, but if there's anything in there that is going to help us lose the election, we should know it before the nomination. And if there's nothing in there, why not release it? I mean, it's a very simple model. But he's got to decide, it's his decision, and everybody's got to run their own campaign based on what they think is a reasonable risk. I released mine this evening. We also released the little small charitable foundation we have so people can see what we do and how we did it and what our values are.
Senator Santorum, when will we see yours?
Well, I do my own taxes, and they're on my computer, and I'm not home. So, and there's nobody at home right now. Until I get home, I won't get them. When I get home, you'll get my taxes.
But you did call on the governor to release his.
No, someone asked me would it be okay for the governor. I said yes. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, if Governor Romney's told what his tax rate is, mine's higher than that, I can assure you. But I can't tell you what it was. All I know is it was very painful writing a check last April. That's all I can tell you.
Governor Romney, you mentioned the Democratic attacks. I want to ask you to go back in history a little bit. Back in 1967. Your father set what was then a groundbreaking standard in American politics. He released his tax returns. He released them for not 1 year, but for 12 years. And when he did that, he said this: 1 year could be a fluke, perhaps done for show. When you release yours, will you follow your father's example?
Maybe. I don't know how many years I'll release. I'll take a look at what our documents are. And I'll release multiple years. I don't know how many years, but I'll be happy to do that. And let me tell you, I know there are some who are very anxious to see if they can't make it more difficult for a campaign to be successful. I know the Democrats want to go after the fact that I've been successful. I'm not going to apologize for being successful. And I'm not suggesting these people are doing that, but I know the Democrats will go after me on that basis, and that's why I want to release these things all at the same time. And I mean, you know, my dad, as you know, born in Mexico, poor, didn't get a college degree, became head of a car company. I could have stayed in Detroit like him and gotten pulled up in the car company. I went off on my own. I didn't inherit money from my parents. What I have, I earned. I worked hard in the American way, and I'm going to be able to talk to President Obama in a way no one else can that's in this race right now about how the free economy works, what it takes to put Americans back to work, and make sure he understands that this divisiveness of dividing Americans between 99 and 1 is dangerous. We are one nation under God.
You've raised the topic of putting America back to work. I think we're ready for another question from our audience. Am I right? Not quite yet. All right, so let's stay up here for a second. Let's move to, you mentioned putting America back to work. Let's talk about something. Apple Computer. Apple Computer is a breathtakingly important American company. Senator Santorum, it's one of the most respected companies in the country. I've handed it off, but I carry Apple products to do my work every day. It employs about 500,000 people in China. It is based in the United States, has some employees here, about 40-something thousand, I think 46,000, most of them in retail stores and at the headquarters. 500,000 of them are in China. As a president of the United States, what do you do about that?